Hi everyone, this is Gina the Feminist Breeder. I'm coming to you from Chicagoland, and I decided to do an open video blog tonight because I talk a lot on my Facebook page about what we're going through with my son and his special needs diagnosis in the last year, and then all of the ruckus with trying to get him special services through his school. So I talk a lot about it. I know some people are really confused. Some other people who've been following it have gotten confused just because there have been so many incidents and so much interaction and miscommunication with the school and bad blood with us in the school. So I wanted to just encapsulate all of this in one video, if for no other reason than to catalog for myself what we have experienced up to this point. So if you don't like looking at vlogs, if that makes you uncomfortable, I know it does me. I don't really like watching people talk at a camera. Go to another browser and do something else while I talk, and you can just listen to the story. So this is going to be probably like a 15-minute video, and I'm going to explain to everyone the timeline of events for what's been going on with my son, and then also some sort of the latest updates, what's happened in more recent history with this. So overall timeline, really quickly, January of last year, my son got diagnosed with Aspergers. It's on the autism spectrum now, as of I think December of last year. Some people insist on still calling it Asperger's. I'm one of those people. I don't give a shit what you call it. Call it whatever you want. But the point is that that's what he was diagnosed with, Asperger's, and being on the autism spectrum. So we got that diagnosis because we realized that our son had some quirks and some difficulties that we didn't feel equipped to really deal with. He is exceptionally bright. He's a really, really smart kid. He was reading, several grade levels above his grade level. He was in first grade reading seventh grade books. But he was having some problems socially and some other things where I felt like there's maybe a learning disability in writing or something was going on. So we went and confirmed our suspicions that he was on the spectrum. But very, very, I don't know how else to describe it other than really high functioning. He's one of those kids, I know some people hate that term, high functioning, low functioning. I don't really know what else to call it except to say that most people, when I say he has Asperger's or that he's on the spectrum, they're like, no, Jonas, that doesn't make any sense because he's so social and he's so bright, and they just don't really understand what, like how big the spectrum is and what it can look like for a lot of different kinds of kids. They assume that all kids with autism are like nonverbal and, can't communicate and they're all like Rain Man or whatever. But my son is different. He's very outgoing and, but he has some gross motor delays and he has some sensory stuff and he's got some issues with nonverbal communication. He has a hard time writing things down. Okay, so he got the diagnosis. Great. We go to his school thinking, okay, the school should be totally supportive of this. We're in a really great, very coveted school district. This should be really easy. We go, we schedule a meeting with them. It took us a solid 2 months to get into a meeting. And the school's initial reaction was, we're not going down the road of an IEP. So they said to us, we're not going down the road of an IEP because according to them, my son he was just too bright and too good of a student, so there's just no way that he could have any special needs. So we were like, well, he's got a diagnosis, so, he needs to be evaluated. Like, that's kind of like, he's got a medical diagnosis, you should at least evaluate him to see if he has any special needs, and then we'll decide what needs to be done. And they just went immediately on the defensive. They wrote us back saying, it's not up to you. You don't get to decide if he has an evaluation or not. Fast forward, months go by of us basically, I'm throwing every law in their face. Just like, really, we have to have this evaluation. If you're not going to do it, we're going to bring in an independent. We're going to get him evaluated somehow. So finally, after I start throwing child find laws at them, they finally agree to have him evaluated. This was in May. Okay, so now January is when this started. We're now in May, which, as we know, is the end of the school year. They finally send us the results of the evaluation June 10th, okay? June 10th, which school is, like, out at this point. And I'm in Kansas City, and I'm on a speakerphone, at my field practicum site, not being able to be in the room and not being able to advocate for him. And they basically are like, okay, well, So we got the evaluation and it said, my son is exceptionally bright, he's high IQ, he's gifted, he's testing off the charts and all these things, except, and I'm quoting them, I'm quoting the evaluation, it said that Jonas had deficits in writing, deficits in organization skills, deficits in some social skills, and in all of these different domains that they had tested him in. You know, some of them were perfectly fine, and that's great. We thought they would be, but some of them were specifically said that Jonas had deficits. Okay, that's a key word, and that he needed specific interventions. Okay, so when my husband, who's a teacher, my husband took the evaluation to, you know, his sped person at his school, and she was immediately like, well, yeah, this clearly says that he needs an IEP. He's got deficits. He needs specific interventions. It's all academic. He needs an IEP. One of my best friends is the 504 coordinator for her district, and she's special needs teacher, and her son has autism as well, and she's been through this ringer a million times, and she looked at it and immediately said, oh, of course he's going to get an IEP. That's just a no-brainer. So we finally meet with the school on June 10th, and I'm on this phone call, and they're telling us, despite the fact that that their evaluation showed that he needed special services, they were refusing to give them. Their justification was, we're not qualifying him for an IEP, but like to throw you a bone, we will give you a 504. And I'm like, well, 504 and IEP are two different things. A 504 is really for medical accommodations. It's like if your kid has an allergy and they need their EpiPen at school, that's what it's for. Okay, if your kid's, you know, diabetic or something and needs insulin at school, that's what a 504 is for. It's not really so much for, you know, doing targets and goals and academic stuff. That is what the IEP is for. But they insisted in this meeting in June, the school was like, no. In our district, we do 504s the same way that IEPs are done. And I'm like, okay, that makes no sense. But okay, send us the 504 and we'll look at it. And if it has all the things, that the academic stuff in it that we know that he needs, that you specifically said he needed, then great, you know, we'll sign it and that's what we'll start off with. So we get the 504 and it's just a joke. It says nothing, basically. There's just no accountability. There's no goals or targets or measures, because that's not really what a 504 does, even though they convinced us that that's what they would do. It said nothing. There was just no way for us to get the services that my son needed through this empty 504. So we said, okay, we're not signing this. And they were like, well, now we're out of time, you know, because now it's June, so we can't deal with this anymore. Meanwhile, they're the ones that ran down the clock. And we had been all along trying to push, and they were the ones that waited until June. So we said, okay, fine, we'll revisit this in the school year. And they said, okay, great, we'll contact you in August for another meeting. Fast forward to August. And weeks are going by, and we know that they're back at, the administration's back at school. We start emailing for a meeting, and it turns into this wild goose chase trying to get a meeting with the school. They were like, well, we can only meet, during this 1 hour on Tuesdays. And I'm like, okay, well, I absolutely cannot meet during that time because I have a class, and I'm in my last year, and I'll give you 5 other days a week at any other time that, we can meet. And they basically just kept ignoring our emails to try to work out. So eventually this is going in circles of them not refusing to schedule a meeting to revisit this whole 504 IEP thing. And I just got sick of it. And the last straw was when they sent me an email saying that they were going to they were going to finalize the 504 without us, and that they were just going to go ahead and do it. No input from us necessary anymore. So at that point I was like, that's it. I'm done. I'm done trying to talk to them. I'm going to get an attorney. I'm going to do something, because everybody on the internet's telling me, get an attorney. Okay, great. Attorneys cost tons of money, but I was like, I'm willing to consult with one to see, what we can do. I tried, for the record, to get a free attorney. Okay. However, you have to make like $0 basically to get one of these attorneys that will work pro bono over something like this. So I got connected with this attorney who works in special education. He looked over my son's whole case. I had to put together this whole huge timeline of events for him and all the documentation, and it took me like days to put this together. Days of my life I'll never get back. But I had it all ready, and he saw it, and he basically said, if we do this, our next step with me would be we would go file due process, which is basically filing a complaint with the state, and then the state gets involved, and then the state settles it. So I'm like, okay, I didn't need a lawyer to file due process, but I was really nervous doing it without one, especially without even like talking to one to see if that might be a good idea. So basically, since he said, yeah, I'd probably go through with due process, I felt confident enough to say, okay, well, I'm just going to file due process, and then let's just do that. And we can try to handle it on our own. So we did the due process request. Suddenly the school decided to meet with us, and we met with that. It started out that we had a mediation meeting set up, and they said, hey, how about we try to resolve this one more time with no lawyers in the room before we get into the mediation. And I said, sure, because I'm a reasonable person, and I just wanted this settled, and I just wanted my son to get what he needed, which was writing help and organization help and peer help, help with peer support and social emotional stuff. And sure, I'll meet with you. I'll do whatever. I've been the one that's been trying to meet all along. So we get into this room, and I had found out just before that my son was getting pulled out of his classes 3 to 4 days a week getting writing help. Okay, that's great. That he should have been getting writing help. Nobody told us it was happening. My son just happened to mention it, and I didn't have any details. So we went into this resolution meeting, and I said, what's going on with my son getting pulled out of class? And the 3 administrators in the room, the principal, the assistant principal, and the superintendent of special services, they all did not know about it. They didn't know my son was being pulled out. They said, oh, no, it must just be for spots or something. It must be he's being pulled out for a group thing that, all the other kids are being pulled out for. I said, no, my son is telling me he's being pulled out 3 to 4 times a week alone with no other kids. And he's doing these little 1 and 3 minute writing samples. And that's exactly what would happen in a special services situation. And we looked up the teacher that he's being pulled out with, and she's resource. She's sped teacher. So the assistant principal went and talked to somebody and came back and confirmed to us that yes, in fact, Jonas was getting special services. Which is funny because they insisted that he didn't need them, and yet they're giving them to him. So that was very interesting. And I sat there with all my advocates on our side of the table, and I wrote down exactly what he was getting. And I said, okay, can you please confirm, I'm writing it. Can you please confirm that it's just Jonas being pulled out? He's just being pulled out for these, the special writing. It's not a group thing, etc. Yes, they confirmed all of that. And actually the assistant principal, oh God, that guy, the minute we left there, one of my advocates that was with me looked at me and she goes, that guy's a douche. Because I'm asking very, very politely, just for, the details. I'm like, I'm just writing this stuff down. And he gave me this horrible, bitchy ass attitude about, he just and every time we've been in a room with him, the guy just, it's like he has no social graces whatsoever. So despite him, being dicky, I was like, okay, great. Thank you for letting me know. So nothing got solved that day because I told them I want an IEP. We're at the point where, the IEP needs to be done. Let's stop messing around. Everyone I've ever talked to about this, everyone who's seen this says we need an IEP. I don't know why we're messing around with this 504 nonsense. So then nothing gets solved at resolution. So then we go on that Monday to mediation. Okay. Which is with their lawyer. We couldn't afford to bring a lawyer, but we brought our advocates, my son's therapist on one hand, my husband, the teacher, my friend who's the 504 coordinator, everybody we could, get on our side of the table to try to help us out. And we get in this room, and the mediator, he asks Lester, he says, what's been going on with your son? And I tell him the whole story, and I said, yeah, we just found out on Friday that my son's getting special services already, but nobody told us that he's getting pulled out. So the mediator looks at the principal and says to her, so is that true? Is Jonas getting pulled out for special services? And she looks right at him with a straight face and said, no, he's just getting pulled out in a group, for spots. And everyone on my side of the table who had heard the whole interaction 3 days before was just like, are you fucking kidding me? Or are you fucking kidding me? Because you're fucking kidding me. We were just like, I don't even know what just happened right now. You literally just lied to the mediator. Oh my God. So this is what we're dealing with, okay? This is the level of just, I don't even know if they can call it miscommunication. It's purposefully misleading communication. So long story short about the mediation meeting, basically they promised to give us everything we want, which is the academic support, the support with the peer relationships because there was some bullying, the the support with the sensory stuff. All of these domains they promised would be in the 504, all of that stuff, even though it's not the right form, whatever. And they promised that that they would set goals and targets, and we would be tracking, and there would be a level of accountability in the 504. So the mediator is like, listen, you could decide not to agree to this. He said, but if this goes to a hearing officer is going to say, why not just take the 504 if they're agreeing to what you want? All we care about is he's getting the services. We don't care what kind of form it's in. And technically, legally speaking, they can put all of this in a 504, even though most schools don't use it that way because we have the IEP. They can do it this way if they want to. So he said, as long as they're promising to give him the services, who gives a shit what form it's on? So I said, all right, that's fine. And the mediator said, listen, whatever they agree to in this meeting is legally binding. So if they agree that they're putting this stuff in the 504, if they agree to that right now, even though they can't finalize the 504 today, if they agree that they're writing a 504 with goals and targets and all this stuff in it, this goes in a contract that we sign, and they don't get the option of getting out of it. It's an immediate breach of contract if they don't do what they agreed to do here today. So we were like, yay, awesome victory. That's so great. And right at the last minute, their lawyer tried very sneakily to take out all the language that we had just asked to put in this contract. He kind of leaned over the mediator's shoulder, was like, hey, just for consistency's sake, can we just like take all that stuff out about the accountability and the goals and the targets, just, for consistency. And the mediator was like, that's the reason we're here. No, we're not taking that out. And so I was like, thank God for this mediator. I mean, we all looked at each other and knew that was crazy. But so anyway, so what we're doing now is we're going next week to meet to finalize this 504. If the 504, we still cannot agree on what needs to go in this 504, and if they don't, write it the way that we said we wanted it written, then we still have to go through due process. Then, because right now we have a continuance on the due process, and if it doesn't work out, if this 504 meeting doesn't work out, then we go to due process, and then a hearing officer has to decide what happens. I'm hoping it doesn't go there because I really feel like we will get stonewalled if we don't have a lawyer, and I cannot afford a lawyer. FYI, the lawyer that I did talk to, it cost us $325 just to talk to him on the phone for an hour and a half, and to hire him would be a minimum of $5,000, and he said that wouldn't even get us to his first meeting, that would just be for research, and it would cost us probably $25,000 to $50,000 to go through due process. So everyone on the internet who's bitching at me about not having a lawyer, if you want to send me $50,000, please go for it. I mean, don't, but I'm just saying, that's why we don't have a lawyer, because we don't have 50 grand laying around. Because if we did have 50 grand, this comes to my final point about this. We have started investigating private schools for my son. Not that we can even remotely afford it, but there is a gifted program, a gifted school that is a Dewey type of school near us, which is very progressive, gifted. Jonas, his test scores qualify him to get into it. It's $20,000 a year, and there's no way we can afford that, so we have applied for scholarships. So we're trying right now to see if we can get him in, and then get the money, get it paid for him to transfer there, because I feel like it would be, even if this hadn't happened, it would be so much better of an environment for him, because he just is a really smart kid. So we decided this after there was an incident at school where we found out because his therapist went to do an independent observation at school to find out what was going on over there. And she observed him being very bullied. During lunch, during recess, she found that he was being excluded, that the kids were pointing and laughing at him. I have seen these kids do this with my own eyes, so everything she was telling me was just confirming everything I'd ever seen. And so we ended up, what's my husband's phone ringing? Sorry. So we ended up, the therapist was very upset by it. She said it was very concerning. She really felt like the school needed to address it sooner rather than later, even before the 504 meeting. So we let the school know, and they turned right around and called her a liar and said it didn't happen. Which we know, I mean, our therapist is, she is nothing if not absolutely forthright and honest, and does not exaggerate anything. She's very, very frank, and she just really loves Jonas, and she's very protective of him, but she was very upset by what she saw, which in turn really, really upset us. And then to turn around and have the administration basically call us liars and say it didn't happen. At that point, we were like, fuck this school, fuck this district, fuck all these people, because now we're talking about something that could be really seriously emotionally damaging to my kid, and I'm not going to tolerate that. So, long story short there, we went rounds with them because they kept calling us liars, and then finally they said, well, let's get your therapist in here so she can, say that to us. We got her in there, and they suddenly, out of the blue, agreed with everything she said, and said that they were right, that she was right, our therapist was right. Yes, Jonas is being bullied. Yes, the kids are being really inappropriate with him. They're saying really inappropriate things, very hurtful things, and they are planning on having all these interventions for him and also doing a whole bullying retraining for the 3rd grade. Why that couldn't have happened the first time we told them that what happened at the observation, I have no idea. I don't know why it had to. I don't know. I'm at a loss with these people. So, I can't tell you how this is going to end until Tuesday, until we have, and maybe even not even then. Hopefully it will end then, though, and that Jonas will have what he needs. But we, in the meantime, are looking at trying to find him another school, because I feel like the well is poisoned with this school at this point, and they just hate us, and they don't want to help our son. And it's really unfortunate because, we came to this district because everyone went on and on and on about how great schools are here and, whatever. But this school's not. We're having too many problems. And it's not fair to my son. He's too bright, and I don't want him to be, left behind. I don't want him picked on. I don't want anything to happen to him that would interfere with his success. So this is now 22 minutes we're going into, so if you're still listening, thank you. But I hope now that this provides a lot of background and insight, and maybe even could be helpful / inspiring / I don't know, maybe even just entertaining to some people out there. So that's what's going on with my son and with our 504 / non-IEP situation, and I really thank everybody who has been giving me all kinds of support. I know I get irritated because you guys keep, harping on the same things, but thank you for everybody letting me talk about this on my Facebook page and letting me vent about it, because the school, I'm telling you, I'm going to pull my hair out with this school. So thank you, and thanks for watching, and I would really love to hear your comments on the thread if you have any for me now that you've heard the whole story. If you've watched this far, that's awesome. I do these videos a lot on my blog, so this one's open and free to the public, but if you ever want to, if you really like watching me tell stories, I do these on my blog, so hey, feel free to come and subscribe, and if I get like 1,000 new subscribers, then I can pay for my son's first year of his gifted program, so please and thanks. All right, I will talk to you next time. Goodbye.